Quest Audiobooks presents an unabridged recording of Crooked Was His Cane by Jack Gatland, narrated by Laing. Prologue. Stuart Laws didn't see the car that killed him. It wasn't that he was careless or hadn't paid attention while crossing the road. In fact, when Stuart Laws was struck by the London black cab, he was walking along the pavement in the pouring rain, the vehicle veering off from the road to take him out. It could have been an accident, a sudden slip of the wheel, or a foot hitting the accelerator instead of the clutch. But the witnesses who saw Stuart struck by the car would never know, as the driver carried on in what seemed to be a hit and run. The same witnesses would claim, in the days and weeks to come, they couldn't be sure whether the driver even realized they'd hit Stuart, because the cab had simply carried on down the street, even if it looked scarily like Stuart, while walking from his house to his own parked car, had been deliberately targeted. Stuart wasn't hated. He had no enemies that anyone could think of. And over the following days, when asked by the police about this, many of his friends and neighbours would say that Stuart was a nobody, the kind of person that stood in the background of a room and never really got involved in conversations, but when you looked around, you'd see him standing there all along. It was a strange personality for Stuart, a cab driver, to have. Often, black cab drivers were gregarious, talkative men and women, happy to chat to whoever was in their cab. But with Stuart, he was happy just to sit and simply drive. It was one of the reasons why, a few years earlier, he had quit being a London cab driver after almost 15 years of being in the job, and had moved into a higher level of chauffeur work, driving a black Mercedes-Benz limo for high-paying passengers, often foreign visitors who didn't speak English anyway. Stuart had liked that. He had spoken about this several times to friends, pointing out that if his passengers didn't understand what he was saying, it meant he didn't have to talk, and he was completely fine with this business arrangement. Of course, after the accident, if it indeed was an accident, people had wondered whether Stuart had been struck down by somebody connected to this other line of work. Maybe he had angered someone. There was even talk of him angering the local Yakuza after chauffeuring some Japanese visitors in his car, although that...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?